Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. Meeting is called to order. Public portion of the meeting begins. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the business administrator, board secretary, has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, communicated to the Herald News, the Record, and filed with the clerk of the Borough of Hawthorne. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse.
Here.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Here.
Mr. Totaro,
Here.
Mr. Turco,
Here.
Mr. Doyle.
Present. Would everyone please stand and join me for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And
to the republic
The republic for which it stands,
One
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty,
justice for all.
for all.
All right, meeting regulations. During each regular meeting, 2 opportunities are provided for citizens to ask questions and to make comments. During the first opportunity, early on the agenda, the meeting is open to the public for the purpose of addressing items listed for approval on this agenda only. The second opportunity occurs just prior to the adjournment, when citizens may address any subject matter that is pertinent to and/or directly related to the operation of the school district. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question during the public portion of the meeting, you may submit the question by accessing the Q&A feature on the bottom of the Zoom screen, or you may submit a question via our Board of Education email address at hawthorne.boe@hawthorne.k12.nj.us, which is available on our district website. When submitting questions via Zoom or email, please be sure to include your first and last name, address, and email address, followed by your question. We will do our best to answer all questions in the order in which they are received. If for some reason we are unable to answer your question, someone from the district will respond using the email address you've provided. In accordance with our board policy, the board shall set aside a portion of every board meeting and the length of the portion to be determined by the board. For this evening, we are going to offer a 1-hour time limit. A 1-hour time limit will be offered for both publicly heard portions. 1 hour, if needed. If not, we will close as necessary. The board asks that the members of the public be courteous and mindful for the rights of other individuals when speaking. Please note that the board will not respond to comments regarding students or board employees in light of the privacy rights held by those individuals. Moreover, the board discourages comments about such individuals and will not be responsible for such comments. Members of the public who choose to speak during this public session should carefully consider their comments, since they could be held personally liable for any statements they make. Finally, please note that in accordance with district policy, the board will not officially comment or respond to any matter mentioned unless it can confirm that the matter has first been brought to the attention of the appropriate school personnel in an attempt to resolve the issues. That being said, we're going to enter our first public be heard portion, and it's on agenda items only. All right, I'm looking at our Q&A button, and I do not see any questions. Mr. Sprito, do we have any emails?
Apologize. Sorry. We do have some emails in our email account, but they are not related to agenda items.
Okay. I will give it another 20 seconds. All right, last check, Mr. Sprito, any emails related to agenda items?
No, we do not have any related to.
Okay, and I do not see any questions in our Q&A, so we are going to move on. I'm going to entertain a motion for the approval of the May 12th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Motion.
Second.
You got it, Trudy? Any
Yes, thank
discussion?
you.
Doesn't appear that there's any discussion. All right, take a roll call, please.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. Moving on to our correspondence and reports. We're going to start with our student council representative, Ms. Ava Tower, please.
Excuse me, Mr. Doyle, may I make I have some correspondence?
Oh, I'm sorry. Ava, hang on one second.
Sorry,
Go
Ava.
ahead, Trudy, I apologize.
That's okay. The board received correspondence from Scott Varone dated June 8th, 2020, expressing his remorse for the statements made in his social media post. The board also received correspondence from a number of individuals expressing their anger and offense over Mr. Varone's social media posting, as well as from many who encouraged the board to view Mr. Varone's remarks against his overall performance and reputation in the district. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Trudy. All right, Ava, you're up.
Right. Good evening. As the school year comes to an end and the HHS Bears get ready for summer, I would like to go over some of the exciting events that took place this month. This month, we hosted our senior week for the class of 2020. Each night, videos were posted on our YouTube channel, such as the Senior Band Awards and even a virtual art show. All along the fence outside of the high school, we have a banner for each senior, and every night 2020 was lit up on the scoreboard. On our Instagram, we posted college decisions and some favorite senior memories. Senior week concluded with a trivia night that challenged the students to recognize HHS teachers from their baby pictures and graduation photos. A virtual graduation ceremony will be held on June 16th, which will be followed up by an outdoor graduation on July 13th. I would like to congratulate the class of 2020 and wish them the best of luck with their future endeavors. As this is my last board meeting as the student council representative, I would just like to thank the board for this amazing opportunity. Through your hard work and leadership, our school system is the very best it can be, and I learned so much from being a part of these meetings. I would like to thank you all for this wonderful experience, and I hope to see you again soon. That's all for this month's report. Enjoy your summer and go Bears.
All right, thank you as always, David. Great job. We are going to move on to Mr. Sprito's superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Doyle. So I have a few things that I would like to go over tonight. But before I do, I would like to, as you see, as Ava mentioned, this is her last meeting with us. And I want to thank Ava for, the time that she spent with us. I think she's done an outstanding job as our board representative representing the student body at Hawthorne High School. I would like to read the resolution that is on the agenda. I will also tell you, Ava, and I wish I could give this to you in person. We have a little resolution certificate for you that I will get it to you, I promise.
Oh, thank you so much.
But I want to read the resolution that is listed here. Ava Tower has served as student representative to the board during the 2019-2020 school year. It is recommended that the board approve the following resolution of appreciation in honor of Ava. Whereas Ava Tower has served as the student representative to the Board of Education during the 2019-2020 school year. And whereas it has been her responsibility to voice the student perspective to the board at their public meetings. And whereas she has been diligent and conscientious in attending the Board of Education meetings. And whereas she has conducted herself with poise and courtesy while listening attentively to many lengthy discussions pertaining to the governance of the school district. Whereas she has presented thoughtful and informative reports to the Board of Education on issues and events at the high school. And whereas she is a member of the National Honor Society and a member of the Spanish Honor Society. And whereas she has participated in the class cabinet, the student council, the share club, and peer leaders. And whereas she has participated in the fall play and spring musical. And whereas she has been part of the tennis team. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Hawthorne Board of Education express their gratitude and appreciation to Ava Tower for her service to the student body and Board of Education, and send her their best wishes for success in all future endeavors. And Ava, all I can say is I look forward to watching you continue to learn and grow next year as a senior at Hawthorne High School. And I want to thank you for your time as our board representative.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Quick round of applause for Ava.
Okay. As it pertains to my report, I'd like to begin by sharing the following statement, and then I'll get into my specifics of my report. Like most Americans during the past few weeks, we are deeply saddened by the recent events surrounding the death of George Floyd. These feelings have been echoed by our community members, all while navigating an unprecedented pandemic. As a school district, our priority, as always, is our students. In our schools, we continually stress an atmosphere of mutual respect, tolerance, and cooperation, and emphasize this belief through our words and actions, while with the understanding that these actions will impact our neighbors across our town, state, and the nation. A safe and civil environment in and outside of school is necessary for our students to learn and achieve high academic standards. The Board of Education and administration understand that it is our responsibility to educate our students and staff and to demonstrate our strength, unity, and support for one another. We will continue reinforcing these ideals with our students and remind them that we are here for them. Despite our physical distance, we encourage our students and families to reach out to the administration, teachers, and support professionals at our schools with whom they can share their concerns or fears, knowing that we are here to support them. In regard to specifics for my report, I do want to start by saying, as we close in on the end of the school year, I want to take a moment to thank our teachers for all of their efforts and their quick and seamless transition to remote learning. I want to thank our parents for their support of their children while students participated in remote learning. And finally, I want to commend all of our students across our district for their hard work and for making this transition so quickly and so seamlessly. We are obviously all hopeful that we'll be able to welcome all of our students back in September, but we'll continue to communicate any updates that we receive from the New Jersey Department of Education and, of course, the governor's office in regard to September plans. Unfortunately, we don't have anything to share at this time, but we will be sure to continue to communicate those things as we move forward. I also want to thank everyone associated with Senior Week. And, there's too many people to start individually thanking everyone because there's so many people that were involved to make this such a special week for our seniors. I know Ava referenced it, and I totally agree with her statements. There were so many great events, College Decision Day, our academic video that on the first night, our Dear Seniors video, one of my personal favorites, and as well as our community video. And I want to thank everyone in our community who participated in that and contributed to making that video. We also had a virtual art show and our Senior Band Awards. And on Thursday was our Senior Sports Awards. Again, thank you to everyone who participated and created in the creation of those events to honor our seniors. Finally, on Friday night was a trivia night. I didn't have a chance to participate in that, but I can tell you that having a senior at the high school who did participate, she truly enjoyed being part of it. And again, I want to thank everyone who established that event. I know that some of my old pictures were in that trivia night. Again, I want to thank everybody who made it possible. Great job. I also want to, again, thank our administrators, our teachers, everybody who helped create our virtual events. A lot of virtual events over the past couple of months. We have our virtual events webpage. All those events are still available on our YouTube page. I encourage you to take a look at that YouTube page and see what's there. There's some great events. Again, I don't want to list them all because there's so many, but a lot of our honor events, honor society events, as well as our scholarship nights and things along those lines. But great events, and thanks to everyone who worked so hard to make them possible. I do want to share some of our end of year events, and I'm happy to say that today's announcement by the governor looks like will help to make these summer events possible. But the ones that are upcoming, the most recent, are our Monday, June 15th virtual graduation ceremony and our Tuesday, June 16th virtual graduation ceremony. So Monday, June 15th will be our Lincoln Middle School virtual ceremony, and our Tuesday, June 16th will be our high school virtual graduation ceremony. Then in the summer, on Monday, July 13th, we're hoping to have our in-person graduation ceremony. And again, as per the governor's announcement today, that after July 3rd, we'll be able to have upwards of 500 people outdoors. So it's looking like that is more and more of a reality for us, which is great. So that's on Monday, July 13th. Our plan right now is on Wednesday, July 15th, to have our high school yearbook signing in the morning and our senior prom in the evening. And of course, those will be determined by what is permitted at that time. On Monday, July 20th is our in-person Lincoln Middle School graduation ceremony. And on Tuesday, July 21st will be our 8th grade yearbook signing and our 8th grade dance at Macalusos. Once again, that will be determined by what is permitted at the time of those events. But again, looking forward to our virtual ceremonies. We're working hard on those right now. And we're looking forward to streaming those next week. And again, with the hopes of having those in-person ceremonies to truly honor our seniors in person. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Spirito. I want to extend an additional thank you. I just want to thank you for the sentiments you shared earlier in the beginning of your report, Mr. Spirito, on behalf of yourself, the administration, and the entire Board of Education. The tragic events surrounding the death of George Floyd have cast a shadow of sadness throughout our community and across the entire nation. Overseeing the education of our students and ensuring their safety are the primary functions of the board. These goals will remain paramount as we move forward as a family. All right, we're going to move on to curriculum and instruction. Ms. Goff, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Curriculum and Instruction recommend the following resolutions: CI1 through CI5 on page 4, CI6 through CI14 on page 5, CI15 through ETH on page 6, and CI62 and 63 on the addendum. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Tanya. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes.
and Mr. Carr.
Yes.
All right, Abby, could you please continue with personnel?
Sure thing. The following resolutions are pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools. P19 on page 6, P20 through P31 on page 7, P32 through P39 on page 8, P40 through P41 on page 9, and P64 through 66 on the addendum. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
All right, we have a second by Mr. Clavijo. Do we have any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, Mr. Clavio, take us through finance and administration, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Action items pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Finance and Administration recommends the following resolutions. On page 9, F42 through F44. On page 10, F45 through F49. Continue on to page 11, 850 to 854. Continue on to page 12, 855. Continue on to page 13. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Ms. Sanford. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
and Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, Mr. Palouse, take us through claims, please.
Thank you. In accordance with NJAC 6A:23-2:11B, C3 and C4, claims is CL 56 on page 14. I reviewed all the bills, everything was in order, and I recommend that we pay the bills for the month.
All right, so there's a motion to pay the bills. We need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Totaro. Do we have any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, Anthony, we're going to go right back to you for buildings and grounds, please.
Okay, thank you. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Buildings and Grounds recommends the following resolutions. On page 14, BG 57, continued onto page 15 with BG 58, 59, 60, and 61. That's all. All right. Second.
All right. We have any discussion?
I
All right,
have
roll
a
call.
question. Oh, I have a question.
Go ahead, Abby.
Sorry. It's about BG 57, the elections. This will be the first time that we're really allowing people in the building. So I'm just wondering what precautions, if any, we're taking, sanitization before and after. I know that this is a loophole, but just what we're doing to prepare and then afterwards.
Oh, well, if I could just comment, I'm sorry.
Sure.
The July dates are tentative. We put them on the agenda, but we're not sure they're going to use any of our schools, actually. The borough said that they may only need one of the schools, depending on how the elections will be handled. So we're not even sure that they'll be used. Obviously, if they are used, we will obviously have to conduct cleaning. The good news is our plan right now is that our summer school will be remote, and the rec, as far as I'm aware, the summer rec program is not happening, so there will not be students in the building. But we will obviously conduct a thorough cleaning of that area. The one building, we did tell them that if we had to choose one, we'd like to use Roosevelt, only because of the direct access in and out and the limited work that will be taking place there. So that we could just basically just clean that area of the gym, the entrance to the gym and the gym, that front part of the gym. So again,
Okay.
I just don't know how much of the other buildings will be used. I don't think money at all.
Have they given you any timeline as to when that final decision will be made?
No, Ms. Fernandez is down at the borough. She wasn't sure, so we put them on the agenda as in case they need them. But I'll let you know as soon as they inform us.
Okay.
Just a comment on that. It's unintended consequence, right? It's nice to not have to worry about the kids being in the buildings with the election. That's such a chore trying to manage that at the same time. So glad that's not something we have to deal with this year.
I have a question on BG 61. Do we go out for bid for this? Is that the normal $242,000 for a bus? Because I realize it said it's accessible. It has two accessible wheelchair accessible positions. Is that the going rate of a bus? I'm just curious.
It's 2 buses.
Oh. Okay.
Bruce, wheelchair buses obviously are a little more expensive than just a standard bus because there's obviously the additional electronics of the wheelchair lift and all that work. So
yeah,
that's.
I'm not questioning it. I was just curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so just to clarify with those buses, one has the wheelchair accessibility, the other one is a regular bus without wheelchair accessibility. Is that correct?
Correct. One is a 50 passenger with 2 wheelchair access, and one is a 54 passenger.
Thank you, Trudy. All right, any other questions? All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totara,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, we're going to move on to our committee and liaison reports. Mr. Clavijo, please take us through Finance and Administration and New Jersey School Boards Association.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just pull it up ahead of here. So the finance, just make sure my microphone is on. Okay, good. So yeah, the finance committee met last week, obviously virtually. Amongst the different topics that were discussed were the end of year balances. That time of the year when our business administrator crunches the numbers and see how our budget ended up panning out once it's all said and done. Once those figures are available, she will share with us, and obviously we'll share with the community and also communicate how those, if there's anything over, how that's going to be allocated. We also discussed the summer projects that are being held, something that most people aren't aware about. I was one of them before I joined the board, is how much gets done over the summer, and there's an extensive amount of work that gets done over the summer, and this summer more so with all the referendum projects that are being worked on. Again, unintended consequence of the COVID pandemic is that the buildings are empty, and certain projects have had an opportunity to have a head start. That was discussed. Also, the CARES Emergency Relief Grant. We had an allocation which was included on the agenda. Hawthorne Hawthorne Public Schools are getting $255,437. St. Anthony's and Hawthorne Christian Academy are getting some funding as well. At this point, we're trying to garnish what's the best use of those funds once a game plan is determined, and a lot of it is pending on what we are allowed to do based on the governor's decisions that will be communicated. Also, in regards to funding related to the state, many, as you may have read, many districts had their funding reduced, the state aid reduction. For the district, the reduction was $176,000. While we're not pleased that we had a reduction, we're also somewhat relieved because we know that that number could have been a lot larger. And at this moment, Trudy's crunching numbers and trying to see how she can juggle things to make up for that shortfall. Also discussed, which was included in the as a resolution in the agenda, which we just voted on, was the increase, the statutory increase in funds that can be spent without board approval. It went from 40,000 to 44,000. That concludes my report on finance, and I have no other reports.
Can I just make a comment, Mr. Doyle?
Absolutely, Luke, go ahead.
Just an FYI, it was in the paper today that Clifton Board of Ed is petitioning local legislators and, of course, PCTI, since we've all taken a hit as far as state aid is concerned, for a reduction in tuition. So I would just ask that we, stay abreast of that situation, save a few dollars. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Lou, for the update. Thank you, Alex. Nothing new to report on referendum since the last meeting. Abby, we're going to move on to curriculum instruction and policy, please.
Sure. The CNI committee met on Tuesday, June 2nd from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. The first thing we discussed were summer assignments. Mrs. Trebona had met with the administrators and they worked to reword the current assignments to reflect the following. Elementary schools would be offered the same choice board that they had in the past, but all work would be optional. The middle school, each grade level produced an optional reading list, but there would be no written work corresponding to that novel. And the high school, there were only a handful of AP teachers that thought it was necessary for there to be summer work. So overall, there will be only optional summer work except for those few AP classes. The next thing we discussed was Renaissance Learning. It will now be used as our universal screening tool for both language arts and math going forward in all grades K through 12. It went live on June 1st, and we purchased the entire suite for 13 months. So from June of this year through June of next year. Ms. Trebona and Mr. Sprito will be sending an email to parents explaining the end of year assessments. Each student will be asked to take 2 30-minute assessments, one in language arts and one in math. These will be used to gather exit data on the students' levels so that they can address gaps in September. If we are still remote in September, we can assess again in this tool. It is a totally digital tool. And we can also use it for in person, obviously. It's sign in directly through Clever Dashboard, which is a single sign-on that students already know how to use. We then discussed the technology one-to-one handbook. Mr. Brislin sent the handbook to the committee for review and the board for review. It does address some recourse for misuse, though the district did not want to take the Chromebook if misuse was happening. They will be, they are able to limit the ability to use other functions on the Chromebook. Thinking of a possibility of administering a quiz or digital citizenship type assignment in order to obtain your Chromebook in September. All student Chromebooks are on property. All teacher cases are on property, which means remaining cases for students and remaining Chromebooks for teachers should be here by July. We discussed collecting the current Chromebooks that are out on loan. Mr. Sprito does want to get them back to have them cleaned up. Some students still may need them, so that's being worked out. We still have no guidance on collection or distribution of personal materials from the state, so we're still awaiting that. We did briefly speak about the LGBTQ curriculum edition that has been added by the state. We have no further guidance on what that means or how that should be added into our curriculum, but we do know that we will still be doing it. Mrs. Trebona did reach out from someone to the county who reiterated the same thing, that there is no further guidance on implementation. There has been no traction of implementation so far. Possibly, Mr. Sprio attended a roundtable and possibly received more information on that. We also spoke briefly about the fact that our closure plan had been approved by the county and that they sent back the plan saying to update it for the new school year. That is all I have. I don't have anything from policy.
Okay, thank you very much, Abby. Anthony, we're going to move on to HEF, CPAC, PTOs, and your buildings and grounds.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to move right on to buildings and grounds. I don't have anything on HEF, CPAC, or the PTOs today. But the Buildings and Grounds Committee met virtually on June 2nd, and we discussed several items. The first one was the flagpoles. We discussed, I think, last meeting as well, at Lincoln School and Washington School. They have both been completed. At the time of our meeting, the concrete was not done, but I think it's my understanding now that everything is complete for both Washington and LMS with the flagpoles and the concrete. Then we discussed the gym floor at Washington School. Last meeting, the floor was completed, but the lines were not down. The lines have now been installed for the sports lining. There may be some minor touch-ups that have to be taken care of, and they'll go back and take care of that if necessary. Also at Washington School, Mr. Chamberlain was there, and he rode the elevator, and it felt like 3 weeks to get to the next floor. He realized something must have been wrong. When he checked, there was a small minor leak of hydraulic fluid, and that has since been repaired and should be working fine at this point. Moving on to Roosevelt School, there was a heat line issue. It looked like there was some water dripping in the ceiling. Mr. Chamberlain, investigated thinking it was a roof leak, and it turned out that there were some pipes behind the wall. Some cinder block were removed. The pipes were repaired internally by our own guys, our own staff, and we just need to put the cinder blocks back at this point. But everything else seems to be patched up and ready to go. At Jefferson School, there was a hot water pump issue, and the company came, took the existing pump, and they're reviewing it to see if it needs to be repaired or replaced, and that should be returned as well shortly. Then going back to the lifts, I know we mentioned it last month. The lifts are all but complete. I believe at the high school, they were there today installing. I'm not sure if they finished, but once that one at the high school is complete, the two at LMS and one at Jefferson are complete, and then we will be just awaiting the state inspection, and then they'll be finalized. And then last, over at the high school, a lot of the old window shades in the existing original part of the building are old and shot. If you want to use them, you either have to tie them down or tie them up. There's no real in between. So we're replacing 48 shades at this point, and then we will reevaluate any other shades that may need to be replaced in the future. But for now, 48 are being replaced. And that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Ms. Sanford, legislative report, please.
Thanks, Mr. President. I just have two quick things. There were two things that were passed. A, 4175 passed the General Assembly. That would authorize the state to borrow $5 billion by selling bonds, while also permitting the state to borrow additional money from the federal government to balance the budget. The treasurer has said the state could qualify for as much as $9 billion in additional federal funds, though it's not clear how much the state will actually request. The next step is for this to move to the Senate. And there was Emma's Law, which is S-277. This was advanced by the State Transportation Committee. This would require any school bus that transports students with special needs to be equipped with interior cameras and global positioning systems. Specifically, the proposal requires all school buses transporting students with special needs to be equipped with a video camera on the interior of the school bus to monitor student safety while the students are being transported. A global positioning system that provides information about the location and speed of each school bus in real time, and two-way communications equipment, which may include but not be limited to a wireless telephone. And that is all I have for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. Marco, do you have anything on the council liaison report?
Thank you, Mr. President. No report pertaining to the Board of Education at this time from the June 4th council meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mr. Turco, Passaic County School Boards, anything to report?
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turco. All right, we're going to move on to our second portion of Public Be Heard. As a reminder, when submitting questions or comments via Zoom or email, please be sure to include your first and last name, address, and email address followed by your question. Thank you. Questions will be answered in the order in which they are received. I do see we have some questions under our Q&A, so I think we'll start there. Mr. Sprito, are you on and looking at the questions?
Sir, I will, I'll jump right in.
Very good.
So we have a question from Dr. Morell in regard to Mr. Pasquale's appointment, and I was going to actually talk about that in your general comments and questions, but her question is, with Mrs. Pasquale being appointed as the high school vice principal, will she continue to be the STEM supervisor as well, or will the district look to hire another person for that position? So to answer that question, unfortunately, with our, due to the fact that we had to make budget cuts this year, the position of STEM supervisor was eliminated. We are very happy that Mrs. Pasquale will now be our high school vice principal. But the good news is that Mrs. Pasquale, as she, in her role as STEM supervisor, she was our science and math supervisor at the high school. So she will continue to serve in that role as our science and math supervisor, which will encompass the STEM program, both at the high school and the middle school, with some assistance from Dr. Trebona at the elementary levels with our research and exploration classes. So the answer is we won't be hiring a separate person, but we will be covering that role with Mrs. Pasquale and Dr. Trebona. Dr. Morell also asked, will the district share how it decided to allocate its funds, ESSER funds, sorry, in accordance with the authorized uses? We will be meeting later this week, Dr. Trebona and Mrs. Engel, our business administrator. I have a scheduled meeting for later this week to determine how those funds will be used. And so unfortunately, I can't answer that question at this time.
Mr. Sprito, I think I can answer at least the next one or two questions,
Okay.
if that's all right with you.
Of course.
All right, so next question we have is Kevin Bergen asked, I see that on the agenda right after buildings and grounds, you have permission to go into a private session. Can I ask why? So generally our private sessions are for employee matters and personnel, and those are all deemed to be private. Therefore, they're talked about in private session. Mina DiFilippo asked, will the situation regarding the racist remarks made by the security guard be discussed? Being that that is a employee matter and it's deemed under personnel, if and when it is discussed, it will be discussed in private. Abby, are you on there? I have a question for you. Ms. Goff, could you repeat? It's really too in and out to understand. Abby, anyway, do you want to go through your report again briefly? Is that a possibility? or at least hit the highlights?
Well, if I could just jump in, I think as part of our minutes, Ms. Goff's report will be part of that. So I think, once we post our minutes, they can review those comments. I mean, I can answer the question about the LGBTQ curriculum, which was asked. Unless Ms. Goff, if you'd like to take it, that's fine. Otherwise, I can just address that.
Please take it.
Okay. So again, Ms. Goff's comments, and just I would ask, that was from an anonymous person. Please remember that if you're going to ask questions, we need you to put your name and address that we can identify who you are in the minutes. But in regard to Mina DiFilippo's question, can you please go back to the issue of the LGBTQ curriculum and repeat what was said? So I'll just give you a quick overview. So Governor Murphy, back in January of 2019, signed legislation mandating that every school district teach what's considered an LGBTQ curriculum. And that would go into effect for the 2021 school year. Unfortunately, we don't have guidance from the governor's office or from the New Jersey Department of Education on what that includes. I can tell you that the plan was to incorporate whatever topics were to be discussed or whatever standards were to be added would be infused into our social studies curriculum. But again, we don't have official guidance on that yet, and it is not officially determined whether it will or will not begin in the 2021 school year. That was the plan, but I know with the pandemic, some things were put on hold. So again, I don't have much to share other than Governor Murphy did sign that into law, that it would be included in our curriculum. But at this time, there's not much more that I can share with you beyond that. Thank you, Mina and Kevin, for putting your name and address. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Spirito, I believe the next question is addressed to you.
The next question is from Barbara McNish. She asks, Mr. Spirito, can you please confirm that you received a copy of the petition with 2,700 signatures requesting Mr. Verone remaining at Hawthorne High School as an SRO? Well, here's what I could say. I did not receive a copy of that petition. I am aware that there are petitions out there and exist, but I did not receive a copy of it.
Mr. Spirito, I don't see any other questions under Q&A. Do we have any questions that were sent to you via email?
So yes, we have some comments, some emails that were received. I'm going to lump a few of them together because they are identical emails, and I will read the names of those who shared them. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are identical emails. So Mina DiFilippo, Gabriella Burkhart, Michael Carone, Emily Layton, and Jessica Layton. I will just share. This is an email. They share their names, and as I just did, they're sharing that they are Hawthorne High School alumni, and they are writing to express their anger over the Facebook post on June 2nd. They mentioned in the post that our high school security guard equated the Black Lives Matter movement with the Ku Klux Klan, and they addressed the fact that it's not only factually incorrect but racist. And then go into from the budget presentation on March 28th. It's my understanding that the security guards are charged with carrying a weapon, and they are concerned with the safety of our students, faculty, maintenance workers, and other people at Hawthorne High School, and that someone who holds such convictions clearly do not possess the judgment necessary to protect Hawthorne High School. And they end the email, and again, in all 5 of those emails, they end the email that in light of the recent Facebook post, a petition titled "Removal of High School Security Guard" is being circulated with over 700 signatures. Mr. Verone's actions are unacceptable and cannot be allowed to exist without consequence. I urge you to consider the gravity of Mr. Verone's words, his positioning within the community, and most importantly, the safety of Hawthorne's children. And it then goes on to final statement, says that it is responsibility of the Hawthorne Board of Ed to relieve Mr. Verone of his security position and propose and implement a plan to prioritize anti-racism moving forward. So those 5 emails that I mentioned are the same. And I would just ask for those who did not share their email address. I know Mina DiFilippo, Wilhelmina DiFilippo did already share her email address, but the others, I would ask you to do the same. We also have an email from Paige Inglace, which is actually, it is almost identical, slightly different in the wording, but sharing concern about the post, disgusted and outraged at the recent post. Again, referring to the statement that the black version of the KKK, they feel it's appalling and disgusting. Men should not be employed by the high school. I'm just summarizing because they're very, very similar in their content. This is not the mindset that should be tolerated in any of the schools. I have lived in Hawthorne all of my life. I've attended Roosevelt, Lincoln, and Hawthorne High School. I've never have I been so disgusted at a staff member. Scott Ferrome should be fired from his position immediately. It is clear that he does not have the intentions of protecting students. Is one of the reasons that Black Lives Matter movement is happening, especially since I'm aware he carries a weapon for the safety of the school. They're saying that if they were in the school right now, they would be terrified to go back to school with someone who's supposed to protect all students. And ends with the same statement about the district to move toward an anti-racist, it's responsibility of the Board of Education to move towards an anti-racist town, and we cannot do this with Scott Verone in our system, in our school system. And finally, Bridget Grenier, again, I'm just going to scan this because I believe very, very similar comments. Bridget Grenier expressing her outrage over the post. Again, concerned about the statement that was made with the Black Lives Matter movement, comparing it to the KKK. Again, sharing concerns about the fact that he carries a weapon in the school. And again, it's almost identical. It does reference the petition removal of the high school security guard petition being circulated in over 700 signatures, 770 signatures. And again, ends with his responsibility of the Hawthorne Board of Education to relieve Mr. Verone of his security position in the district. Okay, so, you know, again, I very similar, but those are the emails that I have received. And again, for those who did not share their addresses, please do so. And you can send them to those emails. That would be fine, to that email. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sprio. Looks like we have another question or two in our Q&A box.
Yes, this question is also from Kevin Bergen.
I think you might want to take this next one.
Yes, sir. So also from Kevin Bergen regarding the LGBTQ curriculum, is it possible to ask for guidance from any faculty or qualified community members? So once we get that, once we get guidance from the Department of Education, there will be obviously conversation with our staff in our schools, especially in the content areas where that curriculum will be implemented. That is something that we do on a regular basis. We're constantly reviewing curriculum. And once again, we will do that once we have further guidance. Thank you.
Mr. Spirito, could I just ask, and I didn't add this to my notes, could I just ask you to speak briefly to the content of the curriculum? I think there's a misconception about what they mean by LGBTQ curriculum. I know that you cleared it up for me during the committee meeting.
Well, it's talks about how it's incorporated and how people within our history, just like we have an Amistad curriculum that talks about our African-American leaders and people within our history, this would be a similar type of situation where it would discuss LGBTQ people and people with disabilities as well. And that would be infused. And again, the idea was to infuse it within our social studies curriculum throughout the grade levels, not just in the high school, but throughout our grade levels. And I just don't have a ton of guidance to provide right now. So, you know, once we get more guidance, obviously we will share what that looks like.
Thank you. The historical piece is what I meant, how there was one person even brought up how the first member from the LGBT community to become an elected official. That was a reference given. So I think that's maybe a missing piece, the information that the community might not know.
Mr. Doyle, we also have a couple of other emails here that just came in.
Okay.
Miriam Sokolska is asking how I would like to know the superintendent's plans to address anti-racism within the Hawthorne Public Schools. So what I can share with you is that we are in the process of administratively, we've already begun having discussions about what that looks like for the 2021 school year. We will be continuing to discuss that topic. I can't lay out a plan for you right now. That will be laid out down the road at some point in the future. Obviously, with school coming to a close and being remote, there's not something we're going to implement at this point, but it will be something that we'll talk about for the 2021 school year. I can share that there will be, we are talking about additional training for our staff, all staff, as well as some additional programs for our students. And that will be determined through conversations with our administrators, with our teachers, and of course, with input from our students as well. But again, I can't give you a complete plan at this time. We also have a question from Alex DiFilippo, and it is identical to the emails that I received. And again, it matches the emails that I already discussed. Mina DiFilippo, Gabriella Burkhart, Michael Carone, Emily Layton, Jessica Layton. It is an identical email to those. He shares that he's an alumni of the high school, concerns about the Facebook post, again, concerns about the comment, Black Lives Matter movement with the Ku Klux Klan, concerns about Mr. Verone carrying a weapon, and once again, references the petition that exists, I guess on Facebook. No, I don't know where it exists, to be honest, but a petition that exists and asks us to leave Mr. Verone of his security position and propose and implement a plan to prioritize anti-racism moving forward.
Okay. I do not see any additional questions in our Q&A box. Give that a little bit more time. And we're empty on emails. Is that correct, Mr. Spirito?
Yes, I have addressed all the emails. Yes.
Tamer, are you still with us?
I am here.
I just want you to confirm, I do not see any additional questions in the Q&A box. Can you confirm that?
Yep. Oh, well, just one just popped in now.
I see it. One just popped in. Mr. Spirito, would you like to take this?
It's from Barbara McNish. She asks, Mr. Spirito, are there any board members that would have a conflict of interest in voting on the accusations against Mr. Verone?
Actually, Mrs. Spirito, I can answer that.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, so in relation to this question, Mr. Spirito, are there any board members that would have a conflict of interest in voting on the accusations against the Verone? So as we spoke earlier, any matters pertaining to personnel, employees are of private nature, and we are not allowed to comment at this point in time. So we have to move on. Still empty, Mr. Spirito, on emails?
Yes, sir.
I will give it about another 20 seconds on Q&A as I see nothing in the box again. All right, Mr. Spirito, last check of our email file, please.
No, we are good.
And Tamer, you can confirm we have an empty Q&A box.
That is correct. Our Q and A's have all been answered.
Thank you, Tamer. All right, at this time, we will conclude our public hearing portion. We are going to move on to new and old business. We'll start with old business, and we will start with Lou. Any old business to discuss?
Nothing new or nothing old, Michael. Thank you.
Okay. Bruce, anything old?
No.
Marco?
Good to hear. Thank you.
Abby, anything under old business?
No, sir. Thank you.
Tanya, anything under old business?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Anthony?
No, thank you.
And Alex, anything under old business?
No, sir.
All right, and right back to you, Alex. Anything under new business?
Just want to welcome Mrs. Pasquale to her new role. I've been fortunate enough to have both my daughters in her classroom at some point, and just thrilled about her continued involvement with the high school and what she's going to bring to the table at that point. So best of luck to her. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Anthony, anything under new business?
I just want to say thank you to Ava. You did a great job this year. And I didn't want to put it under old business because she's so young, so I put it under new business. But thank you for your time. Unfortunately, it ended, the way it did virtually, but you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tanya, anything to add under new business?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Abby, how about you? Anything?
I'd like to echo Mr. Clavijo's sentiments about Ms. Pasquale. I know the excitement she brings to the job, and she is a welcome addition, even though she's not a new addition. And also like to welcome Mr. DeMeo, our interim principal at the high school. I've heard nothing but lovely things, and I'm looking forward to working with him. And also, Ava, we're so sorry to see you go and under these circumstances, but you are on to wonderful things, so congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Marco, anything under new business?
Echo the same sentiments as the other board members. Congratulations to Mr. DeMeo and Mrs. Pasquale, as well as Ava. Thank you so much for what a great job you've done this year.
Okay, thank you, Marco. And Bruce, anything under new business?
Yeah, I just wanted to say under new business, just to thank all the teachers, parents, students, especially the administrators who put together all those videos. I know there's a lot of people involved in them, and from all the elementary schools, middle school, high school, to do field day and have it, remotely, and then be able to show all the events that kids are doing. Thanks for everybody's imagination. And my kids are not in some of those schools, but I enjoyed still watching a lot of the videos, and I think we have a couple more weeks to go with creative video. So just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. And Lou, just double checking, nothing under new business?
No, just good luck to Ava. And Ava, thank you very much. Best of luck to you in your future endeavors.
Okay, thank you, Lou. We'll move on to general comments and questions from the board related to the school district. I'll just comment real quickly. I want to share the same sentiments. Ava, you did a fantastic job this year. We thank you so much. You represented the student body at a very, very high level. Great job. Very excited, and congratulations for Mrs. Pasquale. Looking forward to her moving the district forward, I should say. And I'll go right down the line. Alex, anything additional you'd like to add?
Yeah, just one last thing. I'd be remiss if I didn't, give best wishes to Ava. We're gonna miss you. Great job. There's a long line of, there's a good tradition of fantastic student council reps, and you fit the bill. Just sorry that we didn't see you perform as Belle, but it is what it is. Best of luck to you, huh?
Anthony, anything?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Tanya?
I'm going to have to get a manual as to what's old business, new business in general, because I was saving everything for now. So I too want to thank you, Ava. You did a great job. We loved having you as part of the board. We're going to miss you. Good luck with next year, senior year. I'm sure we'll see lots of great things from you. Again, Mrs. Pasquale, Mr. DeMeo, I'm excited about all those. I'm really impressed by the teachers and what they put together at the end of the year. I watched the 8th grade, the middle school Little Mermaid play today. I watched all the senior events for the week. I'm looking forward to the virtual graduations, and I'm looking forward to the 5th grade events that are happening. I have a 5th grader, so I know it was a lot to pull together. I know it's something that's never been done before, but I'm so proud of everything that they've done. And I say that I thought it was a great job that they put all that together for everybody to try to be a part of it. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. Abby, anything?
I would just like to say that I'm so happy that the seniors will get and the 8th graders will get the send-off that they deserve with the in-person graduation. But I just want to give a shout out to those teachers and staff members that are retiring this year. I don't think that we could ever tell you how much we appreciate everything you've done. My children may not have personally ever had you, but you are significantly impactful and a tremendous asset to the community. So we will really greatly miss you, and I'm sorry to see that this is how your career is ending.
Okay, thank you, Abby. I gotta extend an apology here. I forgot about my partner in crime here, Mr. Joe Carr. He's been quietly sitting there at his desk, and
New kid on the block.
he didn't say anything, and I very rudely skipped him for new business and old business. So, Joe, I'm going to give you the entire floor for as long as you need. Anything you'd like to say about anything?
Be careful. We may be here a while. No, I have nothing under old business, nothing under new business. And I do echo the sentiments of my board members. Ava, congratulations. Thank you for your service. And to all those who are retiring, thank you for your service. And that is all. Thank you, Mike.
Apologize for that, Joe. Sorry.
It's all good.
All right. Marco, did we hit you?
Not yet, I'll be brief, but I just want to continue my appreciation for all the hard work and dedication from the administration, teachers, faculty, and most especially the students with all the remote learning that we've done the last couple of months. It continues to baffle me how we've been able to get through this in such a short period of time, but it's just absolutely amazing how we've come together to do so. So thank you again.
Thank you, Marco. Bruce, anything further you want to add?
No, thanks.
Okay, Lou, anything?
No, I just echo everyone's sentiments and good luck to everyone.
Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, we are going to move on to private session. Be it resolved that the Hawthorne Board of Education convenes an executive session to discuss exempt matters pertaining to topics 1 through 9. Be it further resolved that it is anticipated that the executive session will be for 45 minutes in duration and that public action may or may not be taken. Be it further resolved that the minutes of the executive session will be made available upon a determination by the board that the disclosure of the minutes will not detrimentally affect any right or interest of the board, and the need for confidentiality no longer exists. With that being said, I make a motion to move into private session.
Second.
All right, we have a second by Mr. Clavio. Any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Sorry. Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Paluce,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, everybody, please remember you need to log out and log back into the private session. See you all in a few minutes.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ava.
Thank you, Ava. Tamer, I will text you when we're ready to come back.
I don't know whether I'm in the right thing or not now.
How long were we in the executive session? Anybody have an idea?
7 minutes? No, I'm just kidding.
We went into exec at 8:15.
That's 45 minutes.
Times 2.
Anticipated.
I know.
Is everybody here? I can't see everybody, so. There we go. All right, motion to close the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Doyle, do you want to mention our technical difficulties, or do you think it's worth mentioning?
Yeah, that's a good idea, Mr. Spirito. So we were informed by our IT department that while we were in our private session, there were some technical difficulties and the connection was lost to the public portion of the meeting. That since has been rectified. The stream was put back up. Nothing was missed, but we feel it's important to just notify you and document it in our minutes. All right, so we had a motion. Did we have a second to close the meeting?
Yes, we did.
All right, and discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palooz,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, thank you, everybody. Good night.
Night.
I'm sure we'll be talking
night.
soon.
Good night.
Stay
You all